This conference will now be recorded.
Kaite, are you present?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm here.
perfect. I just didn't want to, I saw your name on, but I didn't know if you were with us.
Yes, I'm here.
So unless people are calling in that are part of the committee, I am only seeing 4 committee members. And if I'm not mistaken, we have 8 active committee members. And so a quorum would be 5 of us.
Yep, we have 6 committee members at the moment.
Yeah, this is Mandy Beeman. It says that I'm an attendee, but I'm a committee member.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, my great. This is awesome. So we can formally have a meeting. And I just saw your email, Mandy. So we will look forward to your presence when you are available. Okay, I'm going to, with that clarity, I'm going to go ahead and respect everyone's time of calling the meeting to order for April 24th, 2006 at 9:05. And first and foremost, I want to welcome everyone that is with us. As we all know, everyone's lives is busy, and unfortunately, trying to find time that all of us can be in the same space would be awesome, but I think it would be impossible. So thank you for attending and doing the work that the boards ask us to. So I want to first of all do an introduction. I'm John Comby. I've been asked to chair the Committee for Rules Advisory, and I will ask the rest of the committee members present to introduce yourself.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Phyllis Nasta, a licensed massage therapist in Sherwood, Oregon.
I'll go next. My name is Karen Weeds, licensed massage therapist in Portland, Oregon.
I'm Jonathan Anderson. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm in Lake Oswego, Oregon.
I'm Mandy Beeman. I'm a licensed massage therapist in Tualatin in Portland.
Perfect, thank you. And any public members that are in attendance that wants to introduce, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Seth Dinkle, and I'm the Government Relations Specialist with FSMTV.
Awesome, welcome.
Ann Nutwell. I'm an Oregon licensed massage therapist, license number 22093, just attending as a member of the public.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'm Danica Tachik, also LMT in Gresham, Oregon, and attending as a member of the public.
Super. Thank you. And I believe for public, Akaite may have some continuing ed for attending. So that's something you and Akaite can connect on. So thank you. And board staff?
Ikaike Senator Haruna, attending from Salem, Oregon. I'm the policy analyst for the board.
Super. So since we do have a quorum, we do need to have an approval of the agenda. So if there's a motion.
Motion.
And any second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, perfect. We can have an official meeting again. So thank you for doing that. We do have some housekeeping from what our last attempted meeting that we unfortunately didn't have a quorum. We do need to still approve the February 6th minutes that we last had a quorum in. So did everyone get a chance to review the minutes from February 6th? And if anyone wants to make a motion, I would recommend that.
A motion to approve them.
Okay, Phyllis, thank you.
I'll second.
And Mandy, thank you. All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Super. Any opposed? All right. Well, all the fun stuff's taken care of. Now we can get to the task that we've been working through. Just to clarify from the chair role, I do want to respect everyone's time. I know there's been challenges for scheduling meetings, and I do want to respect that we still have work from the board. And unfortunately, not everyone can attend when we have a majority of people that can. So I think that's the joy of busy people. And most busy people are generally involved with these kind of committees. So if we have a majority, we will move forward with hosting the meeting. If we aren't able to have one like we did on March, then we will reschedule. So, and when Akaite does reach out, please, out of respect of the work that we're asked to do, if you're able to, when we schedule the meeting, but then unable to, if you said I'm available, but then unavailable, please let Akaite know so she can prompt us to reschedule, because without a quorum, we can't do the work. So just some simple housekeeping, and we will do our best to involve everyone. Okay. Moving forward, did anyone get a chance that was not part of the discussion, not a formal meeting, but our discussion from March? It was recorded. We had just more formal discussion since there was people in attendance. It was not an official meeting. Did anyone see that video?
I did not get a chance to watch the video.
Okay. The beautiful thing is it's always recorded, so you can go back to it, pick it up at your convenience. And it looks like we have Isabel just joined us. Isabel, if you would introduce yourself as a committee member.
Good morning, I'm Isabel Spradlin. I'm an LMT and an RN, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. Unfortunately, so I joined late. I've had a work situation come up And so I'm only going to be able to stay for about 30 minutes, and I don't know if that's going to affect the quorum. I really apologize.
Yep.
It was just unforeseen, unable to control it. So anyway, good morning.
Welcome. And I think we've got a quorum. We appreciate your attendance though. And I would suggest, since we have a quorum on the front end of the meeting, we do some formal acceptance of the work we've already done. So that way, if people do drop off, we can move the work we've already completed to the board. And when I say completed, it's a working process with committee work. So our official being done, it's just moving it so the board can see what we've accomplished, so they can kick it back to us if they want us to dive deeper into explanation, clarification. Committee work is not the final spot for the task. So is everyone on the committee comfortable with kind of approving some of the work we've done, just so we can move our product to the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And it's not giving the committee members that aren't in attendance today an opportunity to chime in. We'll probably get this back and forth a few times from the board, unless we just wow them and we have a perfect product. So I would be surprised if that's the case though. So I think the one thing, while we've got Isabel with us, because conversation at March 16th was really good. And I think with Isabel's background as an RN, we kind of talked a little bit about the CPR requirement. So I would like to at least have a motion to move the draft of the placards. And then we can talk about the CPR requirements, because I do believe Isabel brought up some very good conversation around that topic. So does that feel comfortable for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So is anyone willing to make a motion to proceed with moving the draft of the placards from the committee to the board for their review?
I motion
Were
to
they
do that.
were they reviewed in the March meeting?
So we had discussion, Mandy, if it was from the committee sense. I did catch the video of the board because it was an unofficial document from the committee, since we hadn't moved it out of committee with a motion. It was presented to the board in their meeting via our liaison as a work in progress. So there was no formal discussion that they had, because we didn't give anything to them. And the meeting we had in March, that was the committee's unofficial kind of a discussion, we couldn't formalize anything because we didn't have a quorum. Does that answer your question, Mandy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, beautiful. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of moving the draft of the placards to the board?
Aye.
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 Super. Jonathan, did you step out or are you with us?
I put a thumbs up. Sorry, I thought you saw it there.
No, your video is not showing up on my screen. I don't know where the thumbs up would have shown up.
It's okay. I sent it as a reaction. My screen is like super bright right now because of the sun's coming in, and I don't have a blind, so I was trying to be protective of you guys.
No. Hey, you're perfect. I just wanted to respect you got your voice heard. So thank you for clarifying. So any opposed? All right, perfect. So congratulations. We got our first little piece of work to the board. So hopefully they can either accept or kick it back to us for additional guidance. And then with Isabel's present and everyone else's presence, The conversation around CPR requirements is something the board's tasked us with. There's some supporting documents that staff provided of why CPR requirements are something we're being asked to look at. Any of the committee members have questions about the CPR requirements, have thoughts, and then I'll have Isabel so delicately from Isabel's RN background. I think it was well captured last time what you shared with the discussion. So any committee members have thoughts about the CPR? Basically, they're asking to remove basic life support as the requirement.
Yeah, Isabel, you're going to explain. I forgot. I would like it explained exactly what we're doing.
I'm happy to explain what we've been tasked to do. We've been tasked to look at the current requirement that CPR for license renewal is basic life support, BLS. And it's pretty much kind of the concept that it's BLS only as a requirement. And so we're being asked as a committee to look at the CPR and the need of an LMT and what degree an LMT needs to have of CPR training.
Because the CPR is a higher level.
CPR is entry level, I'm going to say, and it goes stair step from there.
So CPR is the lowest level.
Yes.
And I think the conversation that we were having last time was, you know, there's different trainings for different levels of it. And like what we were talking about was the difference between the level of community-based CPR, which is historically the American Heart Association kind of put forth, like, I don't know, a decade ago, kind of put, or even more, put forth this effort to try to train as much of the community as possible in essentially high quality compressions, because that really is what preserves life while you're waiting for 911 to arrive and have bigger intervention. And so as a part of that, they started community classes essentially that don't go into like the teamwork of running a code essentially if somebody drops. And so the board, my understanding of kind of what Bob talked about last time, and then some of the documentation that we read as well, is that the reason that the massage board bumped that up to needing BLS, basic life support, which is a higher level of training of CPR and surrounding interventions. You know, it includes learning to use the ambu bag, it includes learning to use an AED, it includes like how to do the teamwork around a cardiac event like that. So the reason that the board bumped it up to the BLS level was for a couple of reasons, largely related to professionalization of massage therapists. So wanting us to be in that echelon of healthcare providers that are more highly trained in CPR and all of the other stuff. And in the discussion we had last time, and as a part of that, the way that it's written now in the massage therapist rules essentially is that only BLS applies, right? And so people have done more advanced. I think, John, you were one of the ones that had done a more advanced class or something. And it's sort of denied because of the language. Like, so you sometimes can't, like, I don't know if I could, I don't remember what the determination was because I've done up to ACLS, which is a much more advanced thing. And like, I still had to do BLS as part of that to submit to the board, even though it's a much more advanced thing. And so really trying to stabilize the language about what will be acceptable, and then stabilize the expectations of what is the expectation of a massage therapist if somebody has some sort of cardiac event in your presence. And what I suggested from my own personal experience, having been a part of CPR events, is that one, it's really a team effort. And if you work in a clinic, things like that, then I think BLS can be effective, it can be useful. But so many massage therapists aren't working in that kind of environment. A lot of us are working alone in our own studios, or, you know, like whatever it might be, and kind of expecting that higher level of intervention when really what we need from a healthcare provider perspective is high quality compressions, and community CPR will cover that. And so my thought was that I think both from the level of professionalization and from the level of what is really needed in those situations, which is call 911, and if there's no pulse and no breath, start compressions and just do them as long as you can until 911 arrives, until the EMS arrives. Beyond that, I just don't imagine that that the additional information in BLS is really applicable. And if we bring the language to the community level of CPR, that doesn't mean you can't do the BLS training. It doesn't mean you can't do the ACLS training and get credit for it. The idea, I think, was to propose that we adjust the language so that all forms of cardiac life-saving intervention will be included, anything at the community level or above, no matter where you get the training from, whether it's the American Heart Association or the Red Cross or another community training, whatever, that provides the education. So that was my understanding of where we kind of left that conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for capturing that, Isabel, because I do believe that was a real nugget, in my opinion, from our discussion. And most LMTs, not all, work singularly. And the concept you brought back up today that I appreciate is the number one thing is to call 911 versus attempt to provide a two-person CPR model. So I appreciate that clarity. Any of the rest of the committee, I wanted to just capture Isabel while she was with us. Any of the rest of the committee have thoughts, discussion? All is welcome.
I just have a question. When it was decided to include BLS, was that because there was a statewide push for all healthcare providers to have that?
You know, Mandy, that is a great question. And sad to say, I was on the education committee at that time when we had this discussion. And unfortunately, my memory doesn't pull the why. I think it is the nugget of this concept of we wanted to have the higher standard or perceived higher standard. I think the sticking point that sadly some LMTs have had, myself included, is the language was so specific to BLS that the acceptance from office or staff or whoever's looking at renewals was making it exclusively BLS. So I think that's, I think it's probably why it's coming back to a committee to revisit.
Well, maybe to go ahead, Mandy.
No, thank you. That I was just gonna say thank you.
Yeah, I think though, in light of her question, I think that we probably should, even though if it's the environment doesn't really support it, the requirement for a two-person or above, it's worth verifying. What we don't want to do is, because the language could be CPR or higher, whatever the case is, but if we inadvertently disqualify ourselves from a healthcare provider, because we're trying to make it more streamlined for our usage, but not understanding the whole, or the greater healthcare community, that would be maybe an oversight. So it's worth it to make it work for LMTs, but we don't want to inadvertently lower our visibility or our credibility as healthcare providers. So I'm not sure who has the access to be able to look at that as at that statewide level for healthcare providers, but it's just worth a quick check to make sure.
Yeah, and I would also just add in as a sort of a continuation of that thought is that I do have a question about how much needs to be at the licensure level, because employers can still ask you to do whatever level of training that they want. So even if the boards for our license only requires the community level, it very well could be that if you go, I have no idea, I'm just making this up, but if you go to Massage Envy, they may require the BLS level, and then you'll have to do that for your employment purposes, or maybe for your own personal standard, that's what you want to do. And I think one of my arguments is for us to not, at the licensing level, yes, make sure that we're in line with whatever like that we're not missing something in the licensing level to disqualify ourselves, but also to keep it kind of at the lowest common denominator for the licensing process and let any other stuff be added on top of that, if that makes sense.
Would standard CPR be considered lesser than BLS, or is it just not including the multi-factor or multi-provider situation? Because I remember when I took CPR before BLS was a requirement, I was taught how to use a defibrillator. So it's still part of the CPR training as far as I'm aware. So I don't know if I would count it as being lesser than just maybe lacking the multi-step or multi-people, playing off of each other. Well, I feel like that is beneficial. If you are in a massage room by yourself, the only time that's going to happen is when the EMTs arrive. So like I can understand both sides of the situation, but would we consider BLS to be greater than regular CPR?
Yeah, I think there's, potentially a discussion to be had there, but as far as like the lesser than, I think it's just like, there's a lot, to my memory, and it's been a long time since I've done just kind of the CPR, like the more community-based CPR aspect of it. So my brain is muddled by years and years of BLS. But if I had to guess, it kind of depends on two things. One, who you're doing it through. Like, not all CPR classes are taught the same, even if they say they meet the same requirement. And then two, the BLS requirements I would expect are more sort of involved, a little bit more stringent. Then like what I'm thinking of is the community level. For example, at the community level, it's my understanding as of a few years ago that the American Heart Association removed the giving 2 breaths in between the 30 compressions because it's too much for one person in a community situation. It's hard to remember that. However, in BLS, it is absolutely part of the training. You give the 30 compressions and the 2 breaths in that cadence, or if it's a baby, like depending on age. And so the community-based is trying to make it as accessible as possible for that most baseline life-saving thing. And so not to assign like better than to it, it's just for a different purpose. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. When BLS was first added, I felt like that it was important to have that additional training as a healthcare provider, but it was mostly so that I could be available in the event of an accident elsewhere other than just in my office. So I can appreciate that regular CPR would be a fine addition, or bringing it back to just regular CPR, because like I said, most of the ones I've taken included a defibrillator and what to do as far as like calling 911 first, then starting compressions, or asking someone else who doesn't know what they're doing as far as CPR goes to call 911. All of that's included in the regular CPR. So I I would think that that would be fine. And then for suggestions as far as language, I would suggest including BLS in the language, and even maybe the higher versions of them, the ones that even require even more. So like in the language, it could say, you need to take CPR such as CPR, BLS, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then just to go back quickly to Jonathan's question, and I agree with everything you said, Mandy. Like even if I wasn't a nurse and didn't have to have the higher level, whatever, I would probably just as a community member still want to do the BLS. I think as the rules committee, though, we want to be thinking about like basic licensure, right? Like, and then anybody can add on top of that. And then Jonathan, to go back to your question, I just looked it up. Well, we've been talking, and take it for what it is. I put it into Claude, but it says the official rationale published in the, so this is to answer like, why did the board make this change? It says the official rationale published in the fall 2018 Borderline newsletter is thin. It announces the change, but doesn't explain why in depth. The framing in the administrative rule language is the most substantive clue. The requirement is described as CPR, quote, designed for professional healthcare providers, end quote, with the AHA BLS healthcare providers course as the standard. And so it's, in other words, the explicit logic embedded in the rule is that massage therapists are classified as healthcare professionals and should therefore hold the same emergency response certification standard expected of other healthcare providers, not the lay public version, but that's the inference, not what they actually wrote. So I don't know if that helps.
Well, I want to, of course, always do the work that we are tasked to do, and also looking at the future for growing the community and the profession, you know what I mean, and make the bar of what it needs to be so it's workable and usable. But at the same time, it doesn't look like it's clarified, but I guess someone needs to be able to somehow verify that, because I think that would be oversimplification, and then if we wind up disqualifying ourselves because that's the set expectation, that would not be what we are intending to do here by simplifying things. So
Okay. All right, John, can I'll chime in real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, before we went to BLS, the requirement was CPR. And it's really simple. What Isabel said, the purpose was to set the highest standard for for massage therapists in Oregon. And as you know, the board is always at the forefront of leading the trend for our standards. And so this, I believe, now is becoming an issue because a lot of massage therapists are saying that they are not in a position where they need all the extra requirement. The hope is that we can bring it down to where we were before, which is just the CPR, and then have room so that we can accept anything beyond that basic, the community level CPR.
okay.
I think that if we have that in the language, it's going to make it more, you can get what is necessary to get your license, but you can also get what is necessary, like Isabel said, to advance yourself. And that will still be accepted for continuing education. Because that was the other issue as well, is that unless it is BLS, it will not be accepted. Meanwhile, you may take something that is BLS plus, right? But it's called something else. And therefore, it's not acceptable. However, if we make the language in such a way that we make provision for you can do the CPR and anything above that, and you can give us description, course description to show that it is CPR plus, advanced, what have you, it should be accepted because you are going way beyond the minimum requirement for your license. I hope that provides some clarification, Jonathan.
It does, but it also, and it just made me think of one additional thing, and then we can move on. So I'm not trying to bog down in it. But the other thing to consider is if we're going to be the ones, which I really like to be, the thought leaders and the action leaders as far as setting the standard as far as Oregon, I know there are intentions or efforts underway to be able to have a cross-portable state kind of a licensure. Okay. And if that is the case, we have to have an understanding if we're raising the bar and then other states raise the bar to that. You know what I mean? If someone moves, you know what I mean, or someone moves, you know, that kind of thing, we should at least be observant if that is the standard across multiple states, so that we don't wind up being behind or, you know, disqualified when some, you know what I mean? So that kind of thing. So if we're going to be the leader, we should remain the leader. If it's unnecessary, don't do it. You know what I mean? So if it's not the standard, or if it's not being picked up by other states and we're the only ones doing it, adding burden to our own kind of citizens, then it doesn't make sense to do it. But I don't want to like be the pioneers and then everybody else picks it up and then we put ourselves below the bar.
Yeah, and we looked that up last time, Jonathan,
Okay.
in that meeting that wasn't like actually a meeting. Um, and yeah, so it turns out that California doesn't have any, there's no statewide requirement. It's so, like you can be an LMT there because it's not statewide regulated anyway. And in many places, there is no CPR expectation at all. In Washington, I can't remember, it was either less than, it's like at the community level, I believe it's at the community level, they do not have the BLS requirement. And I can't remember Idaho, but it was pretty easy to find. And it, like, we were really outside of the norm on this. I think there's only one other state, it might have been, I want to say Florida, but I don't think it was, maybe New York, that had the BLS requirement. And everywhere else that's either non-existent or it's the community level.
Well, that's comforting. And if that's the case, that's fine. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to not be aware. So I wasn't there. So at least I had the same thought somebody else did to bring it up as a topic of conversation. But yeah, if it's not somewhere else and it's only one other state, then if we're, you know, pushing the standard up too high for the time being, you know what I mean? Because it could always be reviewed and re-added at a certain time down the road. So I'm not, you know, negating that. But if it's unnecessary for the standard expectation, then yeah, okay. I just wanted to clear the air and make sure that we're doing work, and that by doing the work, we're not causing an additional work as a result of our work, as the outcome of our work. So as long as that's the case, I think that makes sense to me then. So thank you.
Yeah, good point.
I love the
While we were discussing this, I did look it up. Apparently, the Oregon Health Authority only requires BLS for EMTs and students of specific things, not even including nurses. Most of the requirements are put together by the businesses that hire the healthcare professionals. So that's something to consider too, is the Oregon only requires this of EMS.
And this is the joy of community committee work, is we get to have this discussion. Because I know, having sat on the licensing board, this kind of organic discussion doesn't get to happen. So I appreciate everyone's question and deep dive, because it helps them too. So I think from my perspective, just to kind of add, if the intention of the state licensing board is protection of the public, I think having LMTs prepared, I'm not even going to use a degree of importance, but if the intention of knowing CPR and what to do for protection of the public, not that my skill set is lesser or greater, knowing that I need to call 911 is pretty important for protection of the public. So that's the piece that I love, raising the standard. But if the standard is too high and we forget to call 911, I think we're missing protection of the public. And we all have the choice to raise our own standard of care delivery. entry-level massage may not be what we're still doing. It may still be, and that's okay. But I think CPR, for the protection of the public, we shouldn't avoid the concept of call 911 if that's the best thing we can do to protect the public. And then, as everything I've learned, it's a living process. So 2 years from now, they've been talking about having interstate compacts for a decade. Maybe I'll see it before the end of my time, but we're here right now, so let's make the process help the public right now and the LMTs. So I'll get off my soapbox. Karen, have you got any? I don't want to avoid you getting in on the fun.
I'm just listening. You know, I grew up with a mother that worked in the emergency room. And so my favorite classes to receive the CPR are actually from paramedics, firefighters, because there's the ones that are on the scene that, you know, have actually done it. And so because of that perspective that I have, you know, the very basic that we're having, I don't even know if that covers it because of my perspective. But you know, if it gets the job done, we get 911 called, we start the compressions, then that's what we do. So
How do you access, do you know how to access classes taught by those professionals that you mentioned? Because I'd love to take one. I feel completely unprepared with the online classes that I've taken. I get my certificates, but I'm terrified if I had to do it.
that's a good question. It's been a decade since I took my last firefighter course, and because I just do the ones online. I can research that out and provide that for the committee.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Because the last one I took was in, I took one in Georgia, but then before that I took one at a place at the fight with the firefighters in East Portland. So, yeah.
I did it at the Red Cross with my daughter. She was doing her babysitter certification, so we just did it together. I did my massage, and she did her babysitter, and we teamed up together. It was a bonding experience. It was fun.
Okay, good to know.
I would think just calling your local fire department and asking if they have any community-based classes that are open to public might be a resource too, Phyllis.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Isabel, thank you for being with us this morning. You've got to jump off.
Bye. Thank you.
So I guess we're at the joy of, do we want to keep talking amongst the committee of where we take CPR? The board has asked us to do just like we have. Talked it through, chatted it out. Is anyone comfortable with suggesting a draft language that we could send back to them for their thoughts? Do we want to have more discussion? What does the committee feel like? Again, nothing I've ever seen go from committee for the first time in a draft form. It very commonly gets kicked back and forth a few times, so don't feel like it's a perceived final thought.
Okay. Well, yeah, that seems like a good suggestion to write it up as a draft.
All right, I will pull that rule up so that we can take a look.
Cool. Welcome in, Jeff.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, John. Nice to see you.
Likewise, good to be seen.
I'm just listening in, and in case you have any questions that I may have answers to.
Great. And just Jeff, so everyone on the call knows who Jeff is, would you just give a simple introduction?
I'll try, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Jeff Van Lennen, and I'm the board's compliance and licensure manager. I'm currently working on the forms for our placards and the placard process that we got from last year's legislation. So I understand you're going to talk in part about that. So I was here to answer any questions that they should come up. So.
Yeah, and at the first of the meeting, since we had a quorum, Jeff, we already moved the draft placard document from committee back over to board so they can either shred it and send it back or celebrate and say good job. So
outstanding. Thank you, guys.
So is anyone daring enough to start with draft language? Akaite's pulling up the current rule. I would suggest simple is best, simple and clear versus complex and confusing, especially so licensees as well as staff don't misinterpret the intention of the language. And as soon as Akaite gets that, if she could, Akaite, can you put that on our screen so everyone's looking at the same document?
Yes, I will.
Super.
While we're waiting for her to do that, can I ask a quick question about the placards?
Of course.
Are the placards put on a business after it's shut down or just after it's complained about?
I'll let Jeff field that one.
Yeah.
So the way we've initially designed it is that we won't be placing placards until the board has taken action. So we'll have the complaint will be received, the investigation will proceed, the report will be forwarded to the board at their board meetings. They'll review that in executive session, and should they impose discipline on that location and it meets the criteria for a placard, then the board will vote as part of their discipline vote as to whether or not they want that facility placard or not. And then if they say placard it, then when Mitch and I return to the office after the meeting, we'll start to process all the decisions that were being made, including arranging for the placards to be taken out to those locations and posted.
And is the business shut down by law enforcement or?
We have no power to shut down a business, and we have no power to make local law enforcement shut down a business. So while we do encourage it, and we do share this information with law enforcement, we are also working with the landlords to try to encourage them to take any legal process that they might be able to do. And they're the ones that can shut it down. So we are successful in that way, and we're hoping that the placard shuts them down, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Hey, John, before I share the rules, did you want to take a look at what the placard looked like based on the recommendations you had?
I'm going to ask the committee, since we've already voted, if they're comfortable with going back to placards, or what is the committee comfortable with? Since we've already voted to move it as is, I guess looking at it, but we've already voted, so I would say we can see it and still leave it as is.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, that would be fun to see it. It's just one more time.
I don't know, since I came in a little late, my apologies, if you've been informed that I'm working with the Department of Admin Services and they do all the printing and designing and graphic design for agencies. So I will be sending this to them. So there could be some suggestions from the graphic designer or from their print shop that there might be something, this won't work, this is too detailed, we need to make this bigger. So there may be some fine adjustments that I have yet to foresee.
And that's great to know, Jeff, because we've had some very good feedback from public comment about the graphic design of these placards. And my expertise is not that, so I'm glad there is a group at the state level that's doing that.
Me too. I'm not a graphic designer. This was the best that Mitch and I could put together with our lack of artistic capabilities. So we just really wanted it to be bright and bold. We wanted to attract the public, and we wanted to certainly express that this was a dangerous facility and that the board was trying to do something about it.
So Akaite's posted that. And again, because we move this with a vote in a draft form, it will be as is until we hear back from the board on what its choice of us adding, subtracting. The nice thing is, it sounds like Jeff just clarified the graphic design piece will be done from a state level, not a committee level, which gives me a big sigh of relief for me. Any questions regarding what we're seeing, or are we ready to look at that rules language for CPR?
Yep,
No questions.
no questions.
Super.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Mhm.
So it's number 3, if everyone is not seeing where it's at.
All applications for licensure must be accompanied by proof of current CPR certification or its equivalent. CPR certification card must include an explanation. All applications must be accompanied by proof of current CPR certification. Basic life support.
So are you open to working on it? Feedback yet?
Yep. I am just letting the committee observe and start thinking how this language might look different if we are feeling we need to critique it.
I'll just go ahead and start, and I'm open to whatever everybody else believes as well. But just at first glance, I do think it should still remain some kind of standard, meaning like the American Heart Association or equivalent. But my cursory initial thought would be to take off after American Heart Associations, take the apostrophe S off. So basically, I'll just read it as my thought. All applications for licensure must be accompanied by proof of current cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR certification from the American Heart Association or its equivalent. The CPR certification card must include an expiration date. So basically just take off, the apostrophe S, because you do want to have a standard, because it might be the Red Cross, it might be something else, but American Heart Association or its equivalent.
Good point.
And I like that. I would also encourage we keep or higher, its equivalent or higher option available based on the discussion Isabel brought forward. Is it's still a choice for the licensee to have a higher training experience.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
I think that's the sticking point for some LMTs when they're renewing for continuing ed allowance, is it's based exactly on this language.
I agree.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's equivalent or higher or more advanced. I don't want to say one is less advanced, but in the degree of training, it does feel more advanced.
And the it's needs an apostrophe if we're going to leave it there, right? Or it's equivalent.
It's equivalent. I don't sense an apostrophe is needed. I could be incorrect though.
Okay.
Now we add a comma after the association, right? It's equivalent or higher.
And what does higher mean?
Mhm.
Are we meaning more advanced, or I think the word higher feels without guidance.
Yeah, and we can do it that way, or we can say as a baseline or as minimum, whatever. But however it's worded succinctly, where the CPR is the minimum standard, not restricting anything else, because all the other ones require CPR as part of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So.
Yep.
So maybe a higher level.
Or
Can you guys hear
standard.
me?
Higher standard. Mm-hmm. Yes.
There are only 3 levels of CPR: Heart Saver, which is the general and public CPR, Basic Life Support (BLS), and Advanced Cardiac Life Support (ACLS). So
if
you
there's currently 3, we could just put them.
Yeah, you could just put all 3 down.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Okay. How about something like this? So we list it down. Higher, it could be or 1, 2, 3, and number 4 would be the CPR certification card must include an expiration date. Just a thought.
I think more detail is always nice. That way we're not 10 years from now trying to understand what our committee was thinking.
Andy, what was the other one?
There
ALO.
is BLS, basic life support, and then ACLS. A is in apple, C is in cat, L is in Larry, S is in Sam, and that is advanced cardiac life support. There's also pediatric advanced life support, which is called PALS.
I think we're questioning putting too many words on that.
What would you suggest, Jonathan? Just the acronyms?
I'm one person in voice, you know what I mean? I definitely respect and appreciate anybody else's feedback. But the other thing to think about is as far as if we put the specifics in here, if they ever change, then we have to come back and write them. Like if there's a new something CLS, you know, we're gonna have to change so committee work's gonna have to be done to be able to change it. When we all know that it requires CPR or higher. You know what I mean? So like if there's a new standard for critical care life support, someone's gonna have to go back to committee work to make a change for the acronym and for the name of it. You know what I mean? So and that's fine, but I just want to make sure if we're looking at trying to right size it and touch it once, my kind of confidence would be around removing the BLS part, you know, that we've already agreed to, and then just making the standard of CPR or higher, whatever that is. So as things change, it's still accommodated. That's my
I think
thought.
the problem is, I think the problem is the word higher, because that doesn't, someone might not know what that means, because BLS and ACLS are also CPR.
So
They're
then say a
just
form. Okay, I'm
more
with you.
complex.
I'm with you on that. So what about
Yeah.
some CPR certification? Because all the CLSs would include a CPR certification as part of being able to get the BLS or the ACLS.
I'd like to add in, I just went and got my certificate that I got when I initially got licensed in Oregon. And I think it shows the points that are being made here of too much complexity. It says, in recognition of successful completion in healthcare, CPR/AED, and then it goes on to say that I was certified in specific course in terms of NCPRF and in accordance with the corresponding ILCOR, OSHA, AHA, ECC. I mean, it's, I have no idea what this means. And I'm glad that it got me my license. But I think you're absolutely right. We should just keep it simple, because the healthcare industry loves acronyms. And yeah, that's all.
And maybe we could cut to the chase and say at minimum, because that opens the door for all the other LSs.
I don't know if you
Like
need to
that.
say at minimum, because then that would confuse me, because I would be thinking, oh, am I doing enough? You know, I'm always worried about not doing it to the letter of the law. So I think if you say at minimum, it could confuse neurotic people such as myself who get tied up with the language. I don't know. I just think
An equivalent CPR certification.
Now, do we need to put the American Heart Association on there?
probably not. Because this was not America. This is the National CPR Foundation that I got this little baby from.
I'm wondering if at the time when this was written that the American Heart Association was the only one doing BLS, because it wasn't always a requirement. It wasn't always a thing. It was.
I think that American Art Association has, they've always been the standard, right? And so if you take it from them or something that's equivalent to that, people tend to model their classes or what have you to that because it is the standard. And so if it's equivalent to that, we will accept it or that. So it's either or. It's not. So I do think that we leave that there. I mean, I don't know. This is your party. But it would be nice to keep that standard at least for now.
So what you're saying is American Heart Association standard or its equivalent.
Yeah, that's the language now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the equivalent is equivalent to
The American Heart Association.
Yeah.
But then how would a licensee figure that out? Like, what is this? It's the National CPR Foundation. I have no idea what that is.
Yes, but if you, like you were reading, right? They are modeling their stuff based on this person and that person and all the mumbo jumbo you just read.
Yeah, but that's a piece of paper. I mean, I have no way of evaluating whether who these people are. They put this class out. I paid my money. I got my certificate. I have no way of knowing.
I think the curriculum has a syllabus though, Phyllis. So you're
Yeah.
reading your certificate, but if it was ever questioned from the staff, you could go on to that same website or wherever you got your certificate. It should have a course syllabus. It
Yeah,
should have teaching standards that they're teaching to. And I think that's the piece that we're trying to minimize what is the equivalent of the Heart Association. They probably have that in their syllabus.
Okay.
Most educational
Yeah.
groups have syllabus.
Well, that makes sense.
So
yeah, when you're looking at
go ahead.
which one you're going to do. When you're looking at which one you're going to do, you're going to look at, does it meet the American Heart Association standard? That's just what you would be looking for as a potential licensee or someone who's just upping their CPR. You're going to want to look for a CPR class that has that standard.
Okay.
So maybe we as a committee are doing like the public has of making this more complex, keeping it simple as it's written or its equivalent.
I do have a suggestion, John. So what if we, instead of all the breaking down here, we could just say, like Jonathan, certificate from the Heart Association or its equivalent, forget the or, its equivalent or above, or a more advanced or something like that, to kind of say that we would take, because the whole purpose of this is that we want to accept CPR that is CPR plus, this advanced thing that you are doing. You should get credit for that because you're going above and beyond. But I think what we're getting, the simplest the language, the better. The more vague it is, the better, because it leaves it up for interpretation. I know that sounds weird to say, but in rules, you want to leave some room for, some wiggle room. Name it maybe policy thing later on, but having that room for adjustment would be helpful. So instead of putting all of these name things in here, we can just leave the names out and say simply CPR from the American Heart Association, its equivalent or above, or be something of that nature.
So from what I'm reading, by stating from the American Heart Association, that leaves an implication that the American Heart Association is the one that the board would like licensees to get their certification from, or equivalent. But that is the starting point that a licensee would, reading this, see and want to go to American Heart Association for their certification.
Right.
If we're only just looking for American Heart Association's standard or the equivalent, do we want to use the word from?
That's a good point, because what if a person is a healthcare provider in a hospital and is a massage therapist, as a second job, but their hospital provides regular CPR training? They might look at that and say, well, I don't know. Can I just put, I got my CPR from St. Vincent's Hospital? Will that be an equivalent? I don't know. I think it is a little bit confusing to actually name the American Heart Association, but I could be wrong. This is not my area of expertise.
Perhaps if we said certification, something about the standard.
CPR. Yeah.
So
I
my
think
wife's a nurse.
Yeah.
She does anesthesia, and she has, as a nurse, she gets the third party ACLS training certification. That's, that her employer then asks for, I mean, as part of her record or as far as her employee file. So, I mean, if they do hospital specific training, it's probably specific to the hospital and expectations around those clients or customers. Even so, my point is that the hospitals are even looking towards those base American Heart Association, American Red Cross, kind of standard as what they want their employees to know. And then if they have additional training on top of that, it's on top of that. But they're still looking to these base level criteria and syllabus as what they're looking for. Is just my observation.
So your wife has to take those classes that are really at a lower level than what her skills are. Plus
Well,
what?
almost.
Yeah.
Almost. Maybe she takes ACLS, but my point is that she doesn't take, and she works at one of the hospitals she works at St. Vincent. But as part of her being a nurse there, they were expecting her to take ACLS from American Heart Association, kind of as an example. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. So they don't rely on their own internal training needs. They still rely on the standard plus anything else that they have. If what unit you work in, you might need additional skills or additional training that is hospital specific.
Because a lot of hospitals will train their people on their own time and their own dime, as part of their workday.
Yeah, but I
Massage
guess
therapy
maybe where
places
that
do that
is
too.
that for her nursing license, that's probably
Oh,
where it is. So for
yeah.
her nursing license, she needs ACLS. So
So
So-
the joy of being chair is I get to bring us back to focus, not saying we lost focus, but with the language we're looking at. Totally respect the good dialogue about other groups. What is our goal with our language for the
Right.
protection of the public with this requirement?
So it's gone now. I can't see it anymore, but I was going to suggest that after in the in between of where it said American Heart Association, we're asking for licensees to have a CPR training, and it should be at the standard of American. I'm sorry, I can't see the document anymore, so it completely went out of my brain. But it was
Well,
Yeah, I'm bringing it back.
That meets the
Hold on.
standard was what I think was the wording.
Yeah, what if you just had something like meets the standard of the American Heart Association or similar associations such as, and then you give the licensee a couple of options like the National CPR Foundation, etc., just to make it simple for the person figuring out what they have to do.
I think that would be bogged down very similar to adding BLS and the other. So if we're looking for to make it visual and I'm sorry if you guys if things get weird with me because I'm having internet issues. But it would be just very if we're going for simplicity,
Yeah,
it would
CPR.
be all applicants for licensure must be accompanied by current cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR certificate.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Hey, Mandy, can you say that again? It was a bit, we can't hear.
Well, we'll give her a chance to or to join back in. I stayed quiet because I was trying to make sure that I wasn't like pushing anything and that others had voice, you know, because I want to collaborate on all this. But the getting to the brass tacks or as simplified as possible. I was just suggesting, and maybe we reinstate it but yeah, take off the apostrophe s, but I would leave or its equivalent. I would take off the specification of basic life support, but I would leave its equivalent because then that gives the room of other standards and other certifications that may be above CPR.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's a
that's
really
just
good
that's
point.
my input, and I think that would solve not requiring BLS as the bar, and it would keep it would future proof it. But that's my input. I just didn't want to keep saying, you know, I wanted to make sure I heard because maybe somebody else had some other ideas that changed my mind as well. But that's my thoughts.
Sorry guys, my internet is having issues.
You're fine, Mindy. You told us it was.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that makes sense. Just put its equivalent and, you know, people can figure it out.
so with the language of the from, could we change that to that meets the standard of or its equivalent?
I like that recommendation.
All applications for licensure must be accompanied by proof of current cardiopulmonary resuscitation CPR certification that meets the standard of the American Heart Association or its equivalent.
Sold.
Yeah.
Standards, did you say standard or standards?
I said standard, but I may have said standards, but an S would make sense.
With an S?
Yeah, that meets the standards. I'm sure they have more than one.
How does the committee feel with what's on the screen as it's reading?
I like it. I think it's very clear and concise.
Any other thoughts?
Thumbs up.
Thank you, Jonathan. I saw that. Any other committee thoughts? Super. So not to say this is a final decision. This is just a draft recommendation. Do we feel like we've dialogued, we've thought through all the potential concerns? It's nearly impossible to think of all of them, but do we want to move this from draft to the board for a look? Or do we want to talk about it more? This is your choice. I just get to be the chair.
I think it would be, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
If there's anyone that's comfortable making a recommendation of the draft language in front of us to move to the board for their consult review.
Okay, so quickly, so do the same for, because it's more than 3, right? There's also number 8, so just change the same thing here. Let's take a look.
Yeah, proof of current CPR certification that meets the standards of the American Heart Association or its equivalent.
So just basically the same language in C.
Fantastic. Okay, I will do that throughout.
I would move to have this presented to the board.
Second that movement.
Okay.
Can I,
Any
I do too.
discussion?
One other quick thing, I'm just looking at this again, and it's just and it says the CPR certification card must include an expiration date. Shouldn't it say is currently active or something, like not expired or something, like, because just having an expiration date and it's expired still means that it's compliant.
That's a rules lawyering.
And that's fine, but I'm just saying that, but the way it's worded, it just says it must include an expiration date. But if it has an expiration date and it's expired, it still meets the obligation.
It does say current, proof of current.
Okay.
I mean,
in the same sentence?
Proof
No,
of,
in the sentence above.
Okay.
Yeah,
proof of current.
Okay,
CPR.
well, that's why we're as a group. That's why we're. But I looked at that last sentence and I'm like, if the requirement is just that it has an expiration date on there, then I can bring my old one and submit it for my recertification as a massage therapist. But
You're looking at the loopholes.
no,
no. So that language is very. Sorry, that language, the last bit, right? That expiration date. It's very, it's important because the system, before, when you go to renew your license, right, you have to enter the expiration date. Now, I think what Jonathan is saying is like, so your expiration date could be tomorrow and you're renewing today. Does that mean that you're not current? So I think we still need to keep the expiration date because we need it for the system for the renewal, but maybe add the current in here as an additional language.
Well, it does say current already.
think
Proof of
that's the
current
very
cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
I'm in agreement that the current, but I zeroed in on the one sentence as a statement, and I was like, if I read that, I could, but since it's the same bullet, that's why we're a committee and working together, and I just wanted to bring it up, but I agree that it is covered by proof of current certification. Whether or not it's going to be expired soon or not, I think you can only check those things if they're current at the time you submit the application. You know what I mean? When it's a third-party certification. So I'm just basically, I raised the point. I'm happy with everyone's help and feedback, and I no longer think it's a concern, is my point.
we've got a motion and a second. We've had some discussion. Is there any people in favor of what is proposed?
One last thing, and it's not a, Ikaite, have you done a global search for BLS in that document to make sure there's not a third one in there somewhere else as before we agree to this?
I know, right? Let's make sure. But what I would do is based on this language you've provided, I will go through it and make sure that all of them have been addressed. And then I will send it out to everybody to make sure we are happy with where it is bolded and crossed out. The crossed out means it's deleted language, and the bold means it's new language.
Sounds good.
But let's make sure.
So again, motion and second. Do we want to vote? All those in favor of the proposed language of draft form for CPR language? All those,
Aye.
Yes,
Aye.
any opposed? Hearing none, Akaite will do as she stated. She'll clarify there's no additional points within the rules that reference CPR, and then apply what we, or recommend to the board what we've drafted. Okay,
Yes.
great work,
Please,
committee.
just a quick recap. John, I just want to make sure I captured everybody. So who moved and who second?
I moved.
So Mandy moved. And the second, I believe, was Phyllis. Am I, or was that?
no, I think it was.
I seconded
somebody else.
It was
before
Karen.
Jonathan pointed out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so it was
We'll give it to Karen.
Mandy and Karen.
Yes.
Okay, super. We're approaching 10:30. Is the committee comfortable? Do we need a movement break? I do want to respect we are scheduled till 11. I also want to respect we've got public comment for the latter portion of our time. So are we comfortable? Do we need a movement break? Or are we good?
I'm fine.
Everyone, okay?
I'm good to move forward. It's
Perfect. Okay. So the only other piece that I think this is awesome. I am all about moving things through so we aren't having meeting after meeting after meeting and not moving stuff back to the board. So thank you for your diligence today of getting some things off our plate. I think this is awesome. And the discussion, I love the discussion because this is exactly what a good committee should do, is kind of bring all the whatabouts up. Because if we don't, the public will when they're renewing, and then we're right back to trying to make new language. So thank you. The only other topic that I really would be passionate to try to at least dialogue on is the mandatory reporter CE requirement. Just to recap, if it's my understanding, as healthcare providers in the state of Oregon by license, we are now required to be mandatory reporters. It's not a choice, it's we are. And from my understanding with Bob's guidance at the first meeting we had, it was, are we open to allowing the continuing ed from that training? At the last meeting, there was a discussion meeting. I got the chance to take the online curriculum, very informative. If it's a requirement and we're asking our population to do a training, I think it's like CPR. It seems like continuing ed should be allowed. That's just my thought. Having a standard but not giving credit for continuing ed seems a little high of an expectation.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
what is the rest of the committee's thoughts on entertaining, allowing it to be submitted for continuing ed?
No brainer, absolutely.
Right, yeah, I mean, we were given continued education credits when we had to do the pain management
Mhm.
requirement. So yeah, I'd say definitely it should be the same.
And Karen?
Am I on? Yeah, I
Yeah.
concur with
Okay.
that. Sorry, I'm going back and forth because I have a barking dog.
No, your barking dogs are great. So it sounds, and I got a thumbs up, Jonathan popped up. So are we comfortable with having a Kaite at least pop up the rule that we currently have for the pain management requirement? Because then we can kind of tuck some of the same language over for the mandatory reporter requirement, just to keep it simplistic.
Of course, there is the question, and I think the board, I haven't been to a board meeting in a while, but I think they're probably going to take it up whether you have to have the mandatory reporting class once and that one and done, or do you have to do it each time? And I have not taken the class, but you've taken the class, right?
I just popped on number one because I figured, well, whether I get continuing ed or not, I'm a mandatory reporter by license. And I just wanted to be informed when I came back to the committee. The current one that the state provides is very informative. It's very accessible. I think that's the other nice thing for our population. It's not in person. You can do it online, which is awesome. And there's
I
no
don't know if the
cost
rest of
associated.
you, I don't know if the rest of you caught it, but BLS is in this list too.
Yeah.
So the class that you took that you for mandated reporting, that is offered on the massage website, but it's not required.
It's not on the website of the massage. I believe it's the Oregon Health Authority is where
But there's a link. There's a link on the massage board.
I am not knowledgeable of that.
Oh, so you just took it through the Oregon Health Authority.
That's where I found it, yes.
Oh.
And Akaite could speak to if it's currently accessible from the OBMT site. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, so.
You can recall putting it on there, but it wouldn't be a problem to add on to the site.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then the next step would be to request that it be automatically accepted. I mean, it should be accepted as continuing ed anyway, because it's now in a topic that is covered by scope of practice kind of thing.
I don't believe it's currently in our scope of practice. That's what we're being asked to review.
Oh.
It's a state requirement by license.
Oh.
But we as the rules committee need to either bring it forward as we're now accepting it as continuing ed, or it's just a state standard.
Okay, well, if it's a state standard and we're required to be mandated reporters, then it seems kind of a no-brainer that it's within our scope of practice now. I don't know.
And this is a requirement by the Oregon Health Authority for all medical providers. licensed medical providers, correct?
Yes, and LMTs became part of that language.
Well, I mean, we're considered health professionals because we have a board. That's in the Oregon Health Authority language.
Oh,
No, we
Yeah.
are healthcare professional, yes.
Mhm. Yeah, that's in the
Yeah.
language of the Oregon Health Authority charters and everything, that if you have a governing board, then you are considered, as a licensee, you're considered a healthcare professional.
okay.
Hmm?
Well, again, I mean, I'm a licensed counselor, and if I took any classes on child abuse diagnosis or investigation, of course, they would all be acceptable, because in that license, I'm also a mandated reporter. So I can't think why it wouldn't be, now that we are licensed. Massage therapists are mandated reporters. It just makes sense that getting education in that area to be able to know and detect and report child or elder abuse or disability abuse would be pretty important. If a person, especially people who work maybe with the public in different areas, and well, we all work with the public, but you might come across it.
And I'd say probably the language similar to the pain management as provided by the Oregon Pain Management Commission. This would be mandatory reporting as provided by the Oregon Health Authority, because that's where you said you saw it, John.
I believe that is the exact place that it was, and I will clarify that.
Well, but why would we limit it to Oregon Health Authority?
This could be another one of those that meets the standards of.
Or it's
So
equivalent, yeah.
mandatory reporting as that, or mandatory reporting, would it be classes? Education?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be
Training.
a good idea to limit it to as provided by any organization. And the reason I'm saying that is because a massage therapist who might be working with children or elderly people might take a class every 2 years that relates to the effects of child abuse on the body, how to spot elder abuse on a person's body. And those classes could be given by any continuing ed provider, and they should be able to be taken, especially if you're going to do any kind of specializing in children or elderly.
So you're looking to keep it very similar to like body mechanics and somatic education. It would just be mandatory reporting training, period.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's, the Little Kids Foundation that focuses on massage with children, and I'm sure that they have classes on how to deal with children who've been abused. And I've done massage with trauma and children, and I mean, any class on that area, if you're specializing in that particularly, would be helpful.
My question then would be, does this educate the licensees that they are required to take that course?
That's a good point. If they're going to require you to be a mandatory reporter, they probably should require you to take this at least once.
Mm-hmm. So maybe mandatory reporting training as required by the Oregon Health Authority, just so that it's known, it's needed. It's one of, like, similar to pain management, you have to have it.
I think that would be helpful. I also,
Okay.
and this may not be a rules committee question, it may be an education committee question, is how much continuing ed is going to be allowed for taking this? Is it a single 1 CE, or is it going to be the equivalent of hours taken?
Yeah, so usually, John, so when you take a course, so if it's 1 hour that you spent in there, you get an hour for an hour, really. So how long do you say it took you to complete it? About an hour?
Yeah, it's a flow of how you move through the course. So it references 40 to 45 to 90 minutes.
Okay.
And I think it's the flow of the student, how fast they choose to move through the course.
Okay.
And as Phyllis stated, there are courses that could be longer than that even.
Mhm.
But maybe this is a good point. Okay, so if you put mandatory reporting training as required by the Oregon OHA and just leave it at that, and then in the future, Education Committee, will take up the other issue that you mentioned, which is, okay, now that we're including child and elderly abuse, basically. If we take classes on that, will they be acceptable for massage continuing ed? So that is a separate discussion. I see that now.
I just want to be respectful of the guys of the Rules Committee and respect the Education Committee has standards of how much is allowed. If someone takes 12 hours of mandatory reporting, I'm not saying they shouldn't get that, but the Education Committee may say that's not allowed. So that might be the question we put back to the board then. Part of this needs to float over to Education Committee.
So at Kaite, as far as language goes, we are changing from the standards of to as required by.
As provided or required, you want to change it to required?
It's required, right? We have to do it.
No, they didn't require it yet. I mean, we're required to be mandatory reporters, but they didn't require the training. I mean,
So,
what
okay, so let me clarify. The section we're in now is just a list of the things that the board will accept if you take them.
So then I think,
Go
the
on.
word, I think the word provided or its equivalent, because somebody like myself, I've been a mandatory reporter for a long time. I'll take the class, I'll be happy to, but I don't
Don't
think
feel like
we
you
should
need it.
require it.
Okay.
I think mandatory reporting training as provided by the Oregon Health Authority or its equivalent. But nobody's yet requiring mandatory reporting training like they are the pain management, which maybe they will in the future, and they probably should, or maybe the schools will require it. The massage schools will require it. That's probably going to happen as it becomes more popular.
That's probably more likely a place for people to learn it.
Yeah, I think it is, because it's not just something you can learn in a couple of hours. And, so yeah, it probably should be, it's probably integrated into schools' curriculum discussions and classes now. But
so do we really need this part here? Could we just leave it at mandatory reporting training? And then because oftentimes what people do, they call to ask, hey, do you have suggestion? But I mean, this does provide some guidance to people that OHA does offer this training, or you can go get your own, that is to per or not, but you can go and get your own. But do we need to put this here? I mean, this is just a question for you. Again, on the understanding that this section right here are the topics that are allowable for CEs.
Yeah, mandatory reporting. That's right. If you just leave it at that, and you have the link on the website too, this is a class that you can take.
I guess the only concern or thought on that question is we are licensed in Oregon. The Oregon Health Authority is the group that we basically are umbrellaed on. So to say that Idaho, that doesn't have a standard for a license, their mandatory reporting class may be different standard than the Oregon Health Authorities.
Good point.
So I would suggest if we're going to guide our LMTs to take a course, it should be one that our health authority is promoting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're covering yourself with or its equivalent. So, you know, somebody could say, well, because it's not, again, we're not making it a requirement. They haven't made it a requirement yet. So then if that's a whole thing down the road, if they want to do that.
So we're coming up on 10 till 11. So I just want to capture where we're at. Rules Committee is requesting the addition of continuing ed allowance for mandatory reporting, with the caveat that this could go over to the Education Committee, asking them to put parameters around how much continuing ed is allowed and the frequency of using, can you do it once? Can you do it every renewal? Is that what I'm hearing the committee is desiring?
Well, I don't think the Education Committee, well, I'm on it. We haven't had a meeting, but typically the board doesn't restrict how much CE you can take on any topic.
You can only get 4 hours for basic life-saving continuing
right,
ed.
okay.
You can only get 1 credit for pain management. That is defined by the Education Committee
Oh, okay, interesting.
per renewal. So I don't want to step over our preview as the Rules
Okay.
Committee.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so just to clarify, John and the team, this mandatory reporting training as provided by the Oregon Health Authority, period, correct?
Or its equivalent. We're keeping or its equivalent.
Yeah, keep that.
Do we want to?
I think that's what you meant, isn't it, John, when you said or its equivalent? Yeah.
The reason because I'm a bit adamant about the equivalent. If we are going to give CE, we know we've reviewed this is just throwing it out there. I'm not saying, we know we've reviewed the Oregon Health Authority and they have it's a comprehensive training that they do offer. It's free. If you take it, you get the CE hour for that.
I agree with you. I think that's a good point. Keep it simple. Especially since it's free and online. Who can argue with that?
And I would say the only reason to keep or its equivalent is in the case of, like Phyllis was saying, some people may already be mandatory reporters and may have already taken like a course in college for it and have like a ton of hours in it. And would they then be required to take the Oregon Health Authority one in addition? So
no, this is if you want CE for it, you need to take the Oregon Health Authority one. That's what this is saying, because it's listed here. But even if you took the course, in your college, remember the supervised CE is only carryover and it only lasts for 2 years. To the subsequent renewal. So if it's more than 4 years, it wouldn't even work. And if you didn't submit it at the time of your renewal, you can't even use it. And you have to take it within the renewal period. So those are things to also take into consideration. When we're talking about when was the last time you took that training for that thing, there is there is a statute of limitation, for lack of a better word.
And I wouldn't be surprised if mandatory reporting becomes very similar to CPR in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm fine with leaving it with just period after the Oregon Health Authority. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
With the draft language, do we have a passionate person that wants to make a motion for the draft language to be pushed forward to the board?
I'll motion. Go ahead.
Okay, Phyllis? Anyone?
And I'll second the motion.
Okay. And Karen seconded. All those in favor with the draft language of continuing ed for mandatory reporting with the nuance of we want to include education committee to input about allowed continuing ed number of hours. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Jonathan gave a thumbs up. Any opposed? All right, perfect. So we are nearing the final window of time. I just want to say thank you for being so passionate today. And I think this was a big success because we've pushed 3 things that we've been tasked with in draft form back to the board, which is exciting because then we can get their takeaway and come back to us. So good job. Thank you. Thanks for participating. And then out of respect of our agenda, any public members that have been so patient and hung on, if there's any public comment about the work we've done today or anything that pertains to Rules Committee. All right. We must have addressed everything so greatly that the public is just amazed.
Actually, if I may,
Who's speaking?
Ann Nutwell.
Oh, Ann. Okay, I didn't see your name there. Go ahead.
If I may, when you were talking about comparing different states, CPR, BLS, etc., safety rules, I will say I help a lot of folks with the Washington licensing requirements because I work at a school. Our graduates here in Oregon have to get an Oregon license if they want a Washington license. And while Washington only requires CPR/AED training, they specifically require that training be in person. So they don't allow an online component. And that may be something that you want to consider regarding the quality of CPR/AED training. That's it.
Super. And I think that's very important. I would suggest that's an education committee dialogue of the quality of education, how it's received. Maybe not a rules topic, but thank you for sharing, Ann. Akaite,
Yes.
anything additional from staff?
Yes. Please, I don't know the best way to go about this, but I need to, since everybody's not here, if I could get like people to just take a look at their calendar and let me know, maybe we can, as a team, decide the next 2 meetings, if at least we have something in the books, on the books about the next meeting. That way I have an idea when I'm sending out the poll to check who, time, day for the rest of the group. At least we have a date that will work for majority of the group, of the team.
And
When is the next board meeting?
The next board meeting is May 18th, I believe. I will put it up.
And I'm just looking at the additional tasks we've been asked as a committee to look at. The list I'm looking at is fix rules regarding zombie license, clarify rules around dual relationships. The other topics we have just moved in motion back to the board. So those last two that I'm seeing on my list, do we want to try to capture those before the board reviews our information? How does the committee want to? That would help us plan the next meeting if we're trying to tackle two topics, or wait until the board comes back from the work we've just moved forward.
I'm always on board with getting on top of things, but I know it's hard with scheduling.
And the nice thing with that, Mandy, is at least we're just down to the final two before the next board meeting. So we're ready when they come back. I like that. Is there any way we can do like a calendar poll where we throw some dates at you, Akaite, and then you can do I don't want to promote a doodle poll or a Google poll or whatever, choose your favorite poll, so the group can see them.
Yes.
And then we can all respond. And
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
And then we'll try to find a nice mixture with the current committee that's present. Is there a day of the week? Obviously, our last meeting was planned for a Monday afternoon, and we didn't get a quorum. Is there days of the week or times of the day that are better? This is the second Friday meeting we've had with a quorum, which I think is positive.
My schedule is so insane. I will try to make what I can work. Thursdays, Fridays are better for me.
So we'll just attempt to, like I started the meeting, busy people are generally the ones involved with these kind of activities. So I get that we're busy and that's what we want to respect, but also continue the great work we're doing. So shoot some times to Akaite, that way she can put something in a poll to the committee, and then we can arrive at, I think at least one meeting before the next board meeting makes sense to work on the next two tasks. Okay. Any last thoughts? Super.
You
Thanks
say poll,
again.
is this something Akaite will be sending us, or do you want me to just email what times I have available?
I would shoot some initial times that you have available to Akaite. That way the committee present is giving her something to build that poll from. And then cumulative, the committee can respond, and it's kind of like a vote getter, whichever one gets the straw poll. Okay, thanks again for your help. All of this is a committee effort, and thanks for tolerating me as your chair.
Thanks for creating the space for us, John, to have open collaboration. So.
Collaboration's the best, Jonathan. I mean, it's a community effort, and if you stay involved long enough, this will come back around, I promise.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Akaite.